are coming from a background of farmers, so they probably have a starting place. But what happened to the millions of young people who have no idea what agriculture is? They're not coming from a farming background. How do they develop that passion to get into the sector? As a matter of fact, we have Madam Rugiatu. Her company is called Slay Farmer. Slay, as we all know, is a cool word nowadays. So, Madam Rugiatu, let's start. How did you find your passion to get into agriculture?
As we all know, for CIU, it's not encouraging. I cannot come to my parents and say, I want to be a farmer. Of course, they're going to say no. Because they want us to be accountants, medical doctors. So after my WAS exam, I wanted to be a medical doctor. That is saving lives. And my father wasn't around, so I had other options. And I had agriculture, I had geography, I had biology. And I said, if I couldn't save lives via medicine, let me try agriculture. So I applied at the General University. At first, there was no passion. First year, I'm from Freetown. I've never been on a farm. Let me just try this aspect. And then, as I keep going, I started seeing the need, the importance for agriculture. Then I started having passion. And after my first degree, I started working with farmers since 2016 in Cordaid State, and that facilitated my passion till now.
I mean, but if people don't eat, they die anyways. If they are sick, they die anyways. So, if you switch your attention from the medical field, which you think you will be saving lives, what makes you think you're saving lives now?
In agriculture?
Yes.
I mean, if you don't eat, you get sick. We are talking about malnutrition this morning. With agriculture, we stay healthy. I mean, agriculture is more life-saving to me. I stand to be corrected.
So, I mean, we have medical doctors here as well. So, that's a whole other argument that we don't want to get into. But I'm just going to jump straight on to Mohammed Bangra, who happens to be the Minister of Youth. So, government after government, one of the things that you said, and I quote, that name me one state in the world or in Africa that has a state farm. But we know that government after government, there have been this concept of youth farm, right? There are, we are building a youth farm, we're getting youth into agriculture. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of funding coming into different institutions and agencies to actually help and support youth to get into agriculture. How has that impacted the number of young people getting into the sector now since you assumed office?
Thank you very much. Like you guys said, government in, government out, there has been a lot of investment in young people in terms of agriculture. But one thing that has not changed is the impact. We don't get the right impact, the impact that we're expecting. We now have the policy sheet 002. The policy sheet 002 made provision for the private sector investment. If you remember 3 years back, even if you have money for you to plow, you don't have excavators, you don't have tractors to do that. 1 year, 2 years ago, government bought over 400 tractors right across the country today. Even my district in Cordaid, we have 18 tractors and over 100 farm equipment. So what we are saying is that we want to shift, the policy shift is encouraging the private sector to invest. You know very well as a minister, if you have 500 tractors owned by government, managed by government, definitely if I want to do my farm, I can just call the director of agriculture in that district, bring me tractors. Or I'll have one packed in my farm just for my own service. So the impact here is this. We started with the children youth farms, the one at Massalia, where we paid every month, young people are asking for payment. I said no. This is a platform, this is a farm that we inherit. It's a model that we inherit. And I realized that no, you can't be farming and we are paying you. We stopped that one. I decided to invest in decentralization in the children meat farms, that every children should have 100 hectares plowed. We plowed, we gave seed, and we gave fertilizer to some extent. That was the second year of farming. And I realized that at the end of the day, young people still ask. That was a 10,000 job project. Every children, 200 children, will have 190 children, additional 10. It's a 10,000 jobs. And I realized that they plow for you, they give you seed, to some extent they give you fertilizer. What are you paying back? To me, it doesn't make much sense. And at the end of the day, they still go ahead and ask. Government should pay them on a monthly basis. I said, no, if you're a farmer, you should have passion for farming. If government is providing all of this to you, you should be able to strong enough to have a startup capital after this year. Subsequent years, you can ask for scale up, where the Minister of Agriculture and other partners will do necessary training. So the impact here is that this year we decided to have the Youth Employment Fund, hopefully August 12th, to be launched. I was in Ghana, Rwanda, Kenya, and I realized that the model they're using there, the question should come from you. Like government, no. But there should be access to finance where a young man could come and say, okay, I'm just from university. Look at the state farmer, should be able to access 10 million, 15 million. At the end of the day, you're running a business. You should pay back so that others will succeed. So when you talk about impact in terms of agriculture, that's just one. And there are a lot of projects in aquaculture that we are currently pushing at the ministry. So for the youth farming measure specifically, I don't believe giving out everything for free. You come, you take, you should be able to pay back. And if you're running a business, if you don't give back, how do you expect others to get? So far so good. To some extent, this is what we've done, and this year we are trying to, the policy shift 002 is what we are pushing forward. So that young people should really change their mindset. You can't work for yourself and expect government to pay you. These are some of the challenges I faced last year, and there should be improvement gradually in terms of the farms that we are talking about.
I mean, I'm just going to, combine two things quickly and then, get Mr. Mara to jump in. So, number one is the mindset shift. We've talked about this. For me, it almost sounds like a motivational speech at the moment, right? Because if I wake in the morning and the first thing I have to think about is what I'm going to eat, I probably don't have the time to shift the mindset, right? And then I feel like when we discuss agriculture, we discuss young people, we discuss Freetown, Western area. But what happened outside of Freetown, Western area, right? And then the minister just highlighted that he doesn't believe in, getting youth to work a farm and then without paying, which makes sense. Business decisions make sense. But institutionally, how do we solve the problem of skills in the agricultural sector, Mr. Mara? You run SL Accelerator, you are the TA facility manager, you're housed in Freetown, you are supporting agriculture, people in the agricultural sector. Do you have a presence first and foremost in the provinces? And what skills do you actually run to actually enhance young people in the provinces? Forget about Freetown first. Freetown is Australian. 50+% of the entire population lives in the provinces. So how do we manage that, Mr. Mara?
Even the mic was pitying me because one question. So first, I like to mirror my response within the framework of a mindset shift, as you said earlier on. But maybe let us just lay bare the current status quo, right? First, we have an average age of a farmer population at 60 years right now, 60 years. By 2050, Africa will contribute about a third of the young population in the world. Sub-Saharan Africa, not Sub-Saharan Africa. So it shows that probably in the next 20, 30 years, almost all our farmers will die who are going to farm and who are going to feed our generation. So this just gives you an impression of how serious this is and how much we need to shift mindset, right? I think for the longest time, we've taken what I call a reductionist and a simplistic approach. We assume we know everything. We assume we understand youth. In fact, we're comfortable branding youth. They are lazy, they don't know what to do, they don't want to work, and we give them hands out and everything is okay. I think it's about time that we take a systemic approach in the following sense. Do we really understand what drives youth? Because we can never make agriculture attractive enough for youth if we don't understand what drives youth. For many of our youth, they've been reduced to a state where they think primarily survival. They want short-term returns, and I don't blame them for that because they lack them. How can we then project agriculture as an economically viable engagement both in the short and the long term? This is the task facing us. And the reason why I wanted to start on this platform is that whatever skills we build, whatever capacity we build, they must be tailored to achieving this and with this understanding, right? For example, for a young person, it's not just sufficient most times to make money. Young people want to thrive in a dignified way. They want to be seen, they want to be recognized, they want to be engaged in something that is cool, slave farming, whatever it is. Have we succeeded in basically capitalizing on leveraging opportunities around us to make agriculture cool? Now let me give you a few ways I think we can do this and how we can go about building capacity. And then I'll answer your question directly. First, I think we have a lot of opportunity to inculcate innovation into agriculture, which will be very attractive for young people. Fish farming. You go to Ghana, people do a lot of aquaculture. People do a lot of, they use soilless agriculture like young people. This is very fulfilling and attractive for a young engineer, for example. How can we integrate young people across the value chain? So you said earlier on, is it farming or agriculture? I think it's agriculture, and that is quite comprehensive. That includes people who can serve as input dealers. That includes people who can serve as brokers. That includes people who can serve as aggregators. That includes people who can serve as marketers, as processors. When once we're able to integrate young people across the value chain, it becomes more gainful and beneficial, but also interesting to them. So obviously, our skills development and capacity building has not been limited to Freetown, because Freetown is not Sierra Leone, right? That's not where our youth are. But we've been very sensitive to the capacity disparities. You cannot tailor training, you have to tailor training, and you cannot give a blanket training to every youth, because youth have different capacity levels, different levels of exposure, and different levels of base. So our program, we say, is national, and we do our best to see how we get applications from across the country. But in truth, we're only attracting a certain segment of the youth. Almost everyone who've applied to our programs are either university students or they have a degree. There's so much more we're missing out on.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And one of the things that I've learned through my experience, dealing whether it's sourcing application and things like that, applications themselves have actually been tuned to be structural barrier to getting access. So you can't expect someone, who has not had a superior knowledge of written skills to actually apply to some of the most difficult, applications out there. I have seen an application before and I ran away. It's not because I wasn't competent, it's because the stress of even thinking about applying. You understand? So, do you think maybe one of the reasons why SL Accelerator have been, attracting only a few sets of people that probably have high intellect, university graduate, is because the application itself has created structural barrier for a lot of other young people to jump in?
Maybe. So I'm not going to say a blanket no, even though I know for a fact that we do from several experiences an example, and we made sure our application was extremely simplified. In fact, we don't care about business proposals. In fact, we don't take their proposals seriously. Reason why is really nothing.
Did you test the application with someone at Mabonto, for instance?
Yeah, so
because simple to you could be difficult to someone.
That's my point. So basically, here is what I think is the bigger problem, right? Because you can't water down requirements to zero. There is always going to be requirements. If you're going to be a serious business person who's going to be trained and manage money, you need to have a minimum capacity, to at least have a team that have that capacity. So what I think young people lack is the soft skills to first understand how to put together a team, to first understand partnerships, but to also understand how they can approach applying to programs. You need not even apply for yourself. I'll give you an example. One of our beneficiaries went for the pitching and she was sweating, panicking. We had to move her to the final one. And then I called her into a room together with one of my ex-colleagues, and with Jack, and we asked, what's your problem? And she said, I'm scared. Everyone is pitching in English. What am I going to do? I'm like, yo, you can pitch in Creole. Today, she's one of our best SMEs in the first cohort. She pitched in Creole. Clearly, she didn't put together that application. Somebody else wrote it for her. But I think a lot of young people lack even those basic and banal soft skills. And these are some of the ways we need to tailor training. Like, most times we conceptualize trainings as complex things, complex financial models. No, what young people need are basically soft skills. How do you go to an office, approach people? How do you approach partnerships? How can you apply? How can you start a business? Soft skills. How can you market? How can you build relationships? How can you network? You need not be a graduate to build soft skills, but we need to understand that we have to tailor trainings accordingly. So I think maybe application forms are complex, but there is a limit to how much you can water down requirements. The bigger problem is young people lack the soft skills to basically approach some of these applications.
So let's go to Amanda. Amanda, you're coming from a communications background, and you know it's pretty cool what you're doing at TD Farms with your dad, right? From a communication perspective, most of the if you go on Google, for instance, and then you type agriculture, the first image that comes up is an old farmer, you know, middle-aged woman or man, somewhere in Africa with a hoe, you know, plowing, right? But you are coming from a communication background. Has that have any influence in how you see agriculture?
Well, as you said, I'm working with my dad, and one of the panelists just mentioned that most of the farmers currently are 60 years and above. And I would say that, to be honest, most times it is not very attractive as a young person, seeing that all the people that are shown on the net are older people, and the picture that is shown is that it's a place that has a lot of suffering. And most of us now as young people, we want something softer, something that is easier, and we don't want to really struggle as much as we see in those pictures. So I believe as a communicator, because my job within TD Farms is to make it look better and market better. So what I believe is to make it look more attractive, because a lot of people who are within agriculture right now, they don't show all the beauties. All that they show is all the struggles, all the frustrations, and to be honest, it hampers and it makes some of us worried about succeeding in some of these agricultural sectors.
But I mean, the young people are coming from, you know, the provinces. They've seen suffering, so all you're showing them is what is happening in the provinces.
But it has been better.
Has it?
Yes, with all the other technologies that are here now, if we can get the grants and we can get the equipment, it can be better. I am very sure that it can.
Well, how many of these young people can actually access the grant? How many of these young people can actually say, you know, authoritatively that it is better from where you're standing?
I would say that we're one of the 40 people who were able to get this grant, and as he just mentioned, that they're trying to attract mostly young people, because when you attract young people, it enhances growth, and you see that it multiplies, because when you have older people within these scopes, there are many things that they will be stuck on. They have this certain mentality. They will not want to do it in a certain way, use certain technologies. And there's many people here who have ideas like bringing tech and bringing platforms where more people within agriculture can grow and thrive. So I think that these pictures that are out there showing the suffering and the frustration conversations can be changed and we can have new narratives.
Definitely. And you know, one of the things that I wanted to explore again is that you are coming from a base. Your father is a farmer, your sister is a farmer. So it's pretty easy for you to, you know, get into agriculture, even though you are a communications person, right? So someone is coming from the provinces and you use language like going back to the village to farm. Is that not retrospective?
Yes, I would.
So why use it?
I wouldn't say it is in that manner. What I'm saying that there are many opportunities. Rather than coming to Freetown and being paid 1 million or 500,000 and you struggle to get that money, you can have way more when you farm and you invest and even give more people jobs so that when they come back, they will be more financially stable than you were when you came to.
So that's large scale.
No, not necessarily. I would use slave farms as an example. She was explaining how she uses the people in the communities and give them the opportunity to have more money within her farm. And she studied agriculture and she can better enhance them with the knowledge that she has to widen their scope.
So here is a question I have for you, Mr. Bangura, right? So some of the conversation that we're having around, you know, the skill of the people, the young people, youth in agriculture, and just the outlook of how we perceive agriculture, right? So do you think from even a structural policy level, we have coined agriculture to look like only for the old people?
That's exactly. Let me just share with you about on grants for coming to the question. Last year, I received some funds from UNDP to give grants for young people in business that business have been affected by COVID. But what I found out is that self-awareness and self-esteem in the young people for them to face the public, to defend whatever they want, is not there. We advertise, we ask that you can come apply. You don't need to know read or write. You just need to own a business and you should be within the age of 15 to 35. Thousands apply. And when we ask them to come forward and defend your application, tell me what you're doing, the place you're doing, the area that you're doing business, and what you really want. Very few could defend that. If you can't defend those basic questions and you want somebody to give you a grant, that's challenging. So at the end of the day, you have very few people who come forward to sit in front of ACC representative, the donor, the ministry, and the implementing partner. And even when you get a grant, we decided to bring 100 youth corpers to go do spot check on those businesses. We found out that very few survive. Yeah? On the question whether agriculture should be age or what, we need to make agriculture a bit funky so that young people get attracted to it. For instance, for most of our partners, we need to revisit our portfolios. And for the financial institutions, they need to revisit their product to be young people attractive. So that if you have a generation today that says 40% of two-thirds of the population is below 35, you need to realign your product as a financial institution to attract the bigger market. In agriculture, like for the tractors, do you know this is the first time in Sierra Leone we have 10 unqualified tractors operators in Sierra Leone? The Sumuya project, 400 young folks were trained how to use tractors, farms. Most of them, 40% of them are women, female youth. And today, 60 to 70% of them have already got job. And you can have the money, but we can't continue doing the traditional way of farming. Today, if you have your 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, you have service providers all over the country, you can contact them, they plow for you. You can use your seed bank last year and do the same thing. So, if we say we want to make agriculture attractive to young people, we need to make it a bit sexy, a bit funky for them, and create the enabling environment. And young people themselves should have that self-esteem, that self-awareness to say, if I want to be a farmer, it will not be easy. And don't rate yourself as a Sierra Leonean farmer, otherwise your benchmark will be very low. Rate yourself globally, rate yourself at African standard, look for the youngest, if you're a snail farmer, the youngest snail farmer in Africa. Go through his or her profile and learn from that. And let's use social media, YouTube, other platforms. We learn from other areas across Africa and the world over.
So let's make agriculture funky. So hopefully we're going to, the next question is going to bring a little bit of a funk into our conversation, right? So slave farmer, it's quite an exciting name, you know, just reading the headline of your business, slave farmer. How do we make agriculture sexy, and how do we bring the funk in agriculture? Remember, you know, I must remind you that a lot of the times that when we talk about entrepreneurship, this is a conversation Hamid and I have had, is because maybe entrepreneurship is sexy, so there's a lot of people that, you know, claim to be entrepreneurs, right? So do you think maybe because conversations like this are currently going on, so agriculture is also being sexy, do you think that would be a problem for us in our drive for food sustainability? And how do we ensure that the funk, the sexy, is also, you know, proportionate to the depth, the progress, and the sustainability of the businesses?
So when we talk about sexiness, sexiness is actually an attitude. As Minister was saying, we have these people, but owning it is the problem. We have people who are into agriculture, but owning it that I am a farmer, I am into agriculture, that has been the problem. And when we went to Yali, 9 African countries, I was the only farmer. And most conversations were like, slave farmer says something, slave farmer says something. So I share my experiences and they see the need. And you cannot look at me and say, I don't want to be a farmer. I mean, it's the attitude, how you carry yourself. This is what I do, own it. I wake up every morning to go to the farm. This is what I do. I get my hands dirty. Under the rains, I'm there. During the dries, I'm there. I have to be proud of it. And as you were saying, don't think... And as Minister was saying, don't think yourself, I'm a farmer in Sierra Leone. I'm part of the Ghana Farmers Association. I want to learn across Africa. I want to get connected because I don't want to limit myself. This is me now. This is who I am. This is what I do. If I want to be a banker, I should have been a banker. After my first degree, I got someone asked me to go apply at Zenith Bank. That is not me. I cannot be a banker. I am a farmer. I have to own it. And because of that, because I feel that this is me, and me, I am sexy. So you're not going to take that from me.
I think that's it. I mean, I'm happy we're bringing in the funk, right? So let's continue on that trajectory. So we're going to go to Mr. Mara, just close by, right? And one of the things she said that I would like you to touch on, right, is looking at her, she's gone to Yali, and she happened to be the only farmer at Yali, right? Do we limit agriculture to farming?
Absolutely not. I don't think agriculture is just farming. I think farming is one and a very fundamental component to agriculture. But as I said earlier on, it's the whole value chain, right? And there's a lot of things you can do across that value chain that is not limited to just farming. And I feel one of the ways we can start by making agriculture funky again is clearly pointing out some of these differences. That in fact, being someone who works in agriculture is not limited to just farming, right? You can be somebody who sells agro inputs. You can be a vet service provider. You can be a broker who aggregates agricultural produce. You can be an agro processor. You can be a marketer and you provide services only to the agricultural sector. You are working in agriculture. It's not just limited to farming. Now, that said, as she was speaking, I was looking at her. It's not just passion. I think it's the realization that farming and agriculture could in fact be a more lucrative engagement than banking. And I know that for fact. I was a banker and I ran after 4 months. Yeah. So I think the task facing all of us, government, partners, and other implementers, is that we need to clearly project opportunities in agriculture to young people, but also support them and create an environment where they can easily grab those opportunities. I.e., I was speaking at the backstage just now that if anybody can grow 500 metric ton of corn right now, call me tomorrow. I can find you someone who can buy all your corn instantly. Yes, 500 metric ton of corn, somebody will buy it instantly. Let me give you a gist. Poultry farmers in Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and the sub-region are ordering maize from Ukraine. Corn. Then they buy corn from Ukraine. Just think about that for a second. Process that one day. Like imagine the farmlands, the vast farmlands when you're just driving up country. Imagine how many land your village people are sitting on top of. Maybe land is hard to acquire in the western area, up country, except if you don't have village. Like my friend, I'm not sure he has a village. But if you do have a village, there's so much more land that will be given to you with support if they know you're serious and intentional about an impending investment. Just go and farm corn. I'll get you somebody who can buy all your corn at premium price. Now, there are a lot of opportunities that are similar to this. We import almost about $15 million dollars worth of onions and Irish potato combined in this country annually. We import 14 million eggs as of 2017, and it has grown further. We import millions worth of salt. You know what salt is made from? Seawater. Salt water. We import a lot of things that we can easily produce here. But do we all have this information? Do we know? Do we know where to start? Do we know how to start? Do we have the requisite skills and tools to get started? No. I think it is not sufficient to have talk shops and seminars like this. They are critical, but it's not sufficient to bring the sex into agriculture. Otherwise, we'll land at the same spot that you just mentioned, as in entrepreneurship. We have people who are CEO, chief executive officers, but they are officers of no one. You are chief of who? You are going at the business, CEO, chief of who that? Where are the other officers that you're chief over? It's just daunting. Packaging. Daunting.
Okay, so
wait, let me just land this thing right to ensure we don't land at the same pot, but we also have stunt agriculturists. I talk about stunt farmer. I'm not saying you're a stunt farmer, please. But we have to make sure that all of these information dissemination and motivational speeches come with practical examples. For example, every time we say, let us incorporate agriculture in a, blah, blah, like you. I'm not saying we don't do agriculture at school now, agriculture at school. All of us did agriculture at some point. Did we turn out to be farmers? No. Reason being, it wasn't practical enough. I was doing agriculture in school. I excelled because my life after school was going to the farm and work with my mom. It was practical for me. Can we make it practical? Can we have curriculum that are tailored to spaces where we have test farms, where we have competitions for kids, school people, university students, where they get small grants and start implementing and start growing products? Can we have that? Can we be serious about an economic zone where we make sure that, okay, what are the 5 big challenges agricultures face? Electricity, packaging, business services. We have an integrated solution on site that we can distribute to 500 businesses working on that particular site. Can we be serious about that? If we don't get practical and get real, we're never going to make it truly sexy and sexy in a beneficial way. We're going to end at the same point as entrepreneurship and have CEO farmers who are CEOs of no one.
yeah, so that's a good, very interesting point, and brings me to the question that I have for Mr. Bangura. So, you know, let's forget that you're a minister for a minute, you know. So, yeah, so, you know, I know that you're into farming, right? And you're doing a lot of work in that space as well. And one of the things Hamid mentioned is that the impact, right? The impact, the fund, it needs to correlate. It needs to be there, right? So now, one of the conversations you and I had was just how much investment you have to put in to get, you know, to where you are. How many young people can have, you know, that access to that level of finance to be able to invest? That's number one. And then number two is people have land. I mean, people have land. People have access to land. What people lack is product-specific knowledge of how to farm that land. What people lack is farming options to actually purchase the seeds, or even the information to actually deal with sicknesses, diseases that arises when they go into farming. How do you think, you know, from a private angle, what are some of your experiences, but also from a more structural policy level, how do we improve that for a lot of the young people that we are all saying collectively go into agriculture?
Thank you very much, Ariel. This is Oman. It's now Mohammed Bangla, the Minister of Entrepreneurship. I'll start sharing my experience with you when I was in Bo. I was sent virtually in Bo by my mom to learn tailoring. My first address happens to be Shinge, one of the tailoring shops, and I was there selling soap. At that time, we have Give. Those 5 soap, you see yellow, green, and all. I started with just 1 box. And by the time I get to JSS 1, 2, 3, I've got like a pile of them. That is to say, there is this tribe in Sierra Leone. I don't know, it's not a tribe though, I'm obsessed with it. If you see that in that particular tribe owns a bike, meaning that individual has money for a jeep or car. If you say you want to do fish farming, for instance, you should have the passion for it, give your all to it. A few months ago, like 6-7 months ago, I was in Ghana. I was doing a study tour on aquaculture, and I realized that just on aquaculture, you have millions of young people employed in fish farming. And I asked my wife, why can't you think we should invest in this? I decided to take a student loan, salary loan, and my wife did the same thing. And all our investment, we decided to put it in there. Today, I'll tell you, nobody has catfish. The entire country, they'll brag of 40,000, 50,000 catfish. Go Green Adventure, YouTube, Facebook, Green Adventure. You see what we're doing. And like I said, when you're doing things, don't limit yourself to Sierra Leone standard. Target Ghana standard and global standard. So you talk about capital. How many young people that really have the capital to invest in a business of that nature? It's not about how much you have, but the energy you invest in it and the passion you have for it. You remember the first 5 ponds, like 5 times I constructed ponds, it like you fill in the water to disinfect the pond, everything. In the morning hours, you just see everything is down because I was learning it the hard way. Little did I know that the size of the pond, it's standard just for 4 feet. And when you put water in there, it should just stop for 3 feet. Until when I decided to bring in 3 Ghanaians that I've hosted in Sierra Leone for the past 6 months. I'll not tell you their salaries, but I'll tell you today, nobody, I'll challenge you one weekend and ask my wife, can we see all the fish farms in this country? And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we came back, nobody could brag of 10 catfish in Sierra Leone. I import the stock, and I want to have a national boot stock. If I decided to resign today, I have a retirement package that tells you the type of awareness, self-esteem, and confidence every young person should have. Nobody, I'll tell you this, no government, maybe in different ways they gave scholarship to myself and Ahmed. Yeah? But no government would, I'm not ever knocking Like any minister in the opposition. Worked for Standard Chartered Bank, worked for London Mining, worked for EHET Africa as a chief accountant. But today, everybody's asking government. Yes, we have a role to play. But that passion for you to succeed is on you as a young man. I remember when I sat to my wife, my brothers, one mama, papa tell me, say, nobody not owe you. The only person who owe you now is mama and papa. And indeed, nobody not owe me until I become a minister. No family member not pay college fee for me. I'm going to tell you my story. I've seen the extreme side of life. I'm now at the extreme. I've been Molanke pusher, by the way. All I can tell you. But today, I don't eat 5 or 8 presidents across the world. That tells you that thing say always depend on people waiting for you. You can start small. Have the passion for it. Push for an MVP. Look at Alex now. Today, you talk about young entrepreneurs, they don't care about you. But let me shift a bit on what we want. So on man aspect, I always tell people, even if it is to us, if you don't go the extra mile, the best thing for doing on social media and for go YouTube, just on stock shares, which is one of our business also. Look at stock market and see what to buy, when to sell. Trust me, in 1 month you make more than $400, $500. If you invest $200, $300, but you get for study and spend time, give all to them. Thank you.
That's an interesting thought, and I think.
And by the way, let me just come into this. Yeah. His Excellency the President appointed me. He knows nobody behind me. 100% in the man. Oh man, nobody like no one. Say I'm gonna get my man, I get papa. The only like one, my wife and my 2 kids. It's me that I appointed. So that's to say, when you believe in yourself, when you're doing the right thing, even if the whole world nobody believes in you, no one day somebody somewhere watching you and one day call on you. That self-esteem, that self-awareness should be in the hands of young people.
Yeah. That's a very good point. But I'm going to drag the sword a little bit, right? So we talk about self-awareness, we have spoken about esteem, but in a country where maybe about 60% of the young people are in survival mode. So it's about now, it's about today, it's about what I can get this hour and not die if I don't have it the next hour. So the esteem that we talked about can be, in itself sabotage. Because if I think only about survival, self-esteem, ego, ownership is not really my first thought.
Again, when you talk about your dream, or you'll be frustrated. We were there when Ahmed was my roommate in university. I have to walk from Fabe College Block H to Dovecot just to ask a sister to give me ordinary petete. He hyper me. Oh yes. You understand? But I came back, I made the mama good manage, semi-basic, yet it not keep me doing. At the end of the day, we all graduate. The first job in a Standard Chartered Bank. So what we say, today for today, you have young people that believe in their daily bread today for today. You have young people that believe, let me invest as what is coming out. When I was in university here in Freetown, when I be houseboy too. How many young people they work at, come out to Fabe College, go all the way Lumley, Action 8 for go work, and at the end of the week somebody give you something. But you keep your eye on the ball to see, me, not to get degree, we get that basic degree, and honesty, sincerity, humility, you don't go wrong with that. How many of we young people know the cost woman? How many of we young people know the big woman? How many of we young people respect everybody in our society, devoid of tribe, region, they take away finish at the moment. These are the guiding principles we make me as a man. So I always say, even if everybody things go wrong with you, yeah, keep your eye on the ball and face the challenge and keep your eye who say you want to go.
I mean, before the both of you go, right? So there's a comedian who I really, really love, and he had this saying, they say, lights at the end of the tunnel, they don't cut out. So who then leads to, right? And then the person who promised to stand by you, indoors to go. We go it's out for tomorrow. So, you know, I mean, I know you're going to jump in, but I think I want to provide we have to balance the reality, right? So if we're here seated and then having conversation, telling people to come on board, young people to come on board in agriculture, we also have to maybe think that maybe our positions are much more privileged than a lot of the young people that we are calling upon now. You are educated, as hard as it was, you went to university, right? As tough as that was, you were able to get to Fowler College. And when you graduated, you were lucky enough to have a standard chartered job, right? And then when you want to get into aquaculture, you are able to again have a salary loan. I mean, young people don't have salary, where they are going to get a salary loan from, right? So, Amid and Madam Slifama, you can jump in.
Okay, to me, as Minister was saying, success is intentional. It is. And let me bring Bible into this. The Bible says, seeing a man diligent in his business, he shall stand before kings, he shall not stand before mean men. What keeps me going is that nobody is going to help me. Nobody is going to come for me. I started with 600,000, and that keeps me going. You start little by little, as Anza was saying. If you depend on people, if I talk with a lot of people every day on social media, I want to start agriculture, but I don't have money. How will I know you want to start agriculture? Why can't you just start with the little you have, and then if grants will come, it will come later? For me, that's what I believe in. I couldn't get access to land because I spent all my life in Freetown. So I had to talk to my pastor because I wanted to do it. It was intentional, and he gave me a land. And the labor is difficult, but I find my way. I have people that say, okay, now you want to learn, I will train you. Let's start by you volunteering. That's how I get labor. In the volunteering process, you learn. And in that process, you'll be able to start something for yourself. I don't have money to pay the people working for me. I can say, me myself, I don't have money, and I know nobody's going to help me except God. But the little savings I have, I put into this. Entrepreneurship is not about buying and selling. It's about making money and creating impact. What are the impacts we are creating? We did a summit in Ghana, and we found out that entrepreneurs, we are the people that are going to save Africa from unemployment. I stand to be corrected. We that have started the agro businesses, how many people are we working with? How many lives are we impacting? How many youth are we bringing into our sector? I think Mr. Maya can add to that.
See, maybe we're privileged. You know, clearly, right now, we're privileged. But I think we're best placed to understand young people for the simple fact that we've seen the other side of life. And I'll tell you, as much as it's critical that government, society, partners owe our responsibility to young people to create a private platform, it's not going to happen anytime soon. It will be a setup to tell any youth, yes, government should do this, and wait until they do it. It's a setup. It is not going to happen anytime soon. So the best tool we can give to you is to find motivation from within. The best tool I give to my son is the winner's mindset. And you know why I'm best placed to understand you? It's because I came from nothing. I mean, Oman basically just gave you a gist of the story. So I'll take 1 minute. I used to walk all the way from Way College, use the canal route and come down to Fobe. You know why? Because my mom would bring vegetables from Kabbalah, bring them to her customer, Auntie Mariana and Fobe Road, and she will sell. Sometimes she will not sell, and I have to gauge 2-3 days, and then I'll show up and check if she sold anything so I can get some money. Most times she will be like, oh, everything rotten. and there's nothing we can do. There was a particular day that we had nothing. And this was before Oman was my roommate for final year. This was year 3. Then I decided to go down. And I went down. I didn't meet Auntie Mariana. I waited and waited and waited and got for function. I waited till 4. And we have exams the other day. So imagine I walked down the canal, which was relatively easier. Now I'm hungry, I'm tired, I have to walk up again. I walked up the canal. By the time I went there, fortunately my roommate is a fuller man. So he always keeps small money somewhere. So he had bought a couple of cups of rice, he cooked the rice, hoping I'll bring some money so we can buy sardine and other things. And then I came with nothing. He says, I'm not in audio. So he had another 1,000 euros and we bought butter. We sat outside the veranda. And meanwhile, the wind is so cool at Fobe College, you can't sweat easily. We sat and we ate. It was like they poured water on us. That was when I realized that if you're hungry, eat hot food. You will sweat and then water. We paused and looked at each other and he said, hey Sam, what kind of slave life would it be so? We laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed until we cried. We both burst, like tears was dropping down our eyes. Today, my best friend is a doctor, a PhD holder, and he's the finance director for Kia in the region, Dr. Mohamed Adam Ajalo. We came from nothing. And so, it's not easy to talk to us as a young person when you want to make excuses. Because we've been there. We've done that. I was raised by a single mom, uneducated, who was just a farmer. And all our friends were very similar. Of course, Oman had no one, so Oman was just Oman. Oman was always making his own way. How he does it is just Oman. From school, like from college, how he becomes club head or class head, Oman does it just Oman. We suffered. And we use our inner motivation and determination. So he was speaking about he got a contract job. It was an internship, but maybe he didn't mention that. That's an intern. it was a broke intern. I remember there were days we meet out on the streets. He's complaining. There's a woman who sells cookery up on the streets. That's what we can afford. So we'll be complaining about how tough the internship is. I'll be complaining about our cancer. Like, what can I use for our MD we had there, Madam Obi? I was like, Sam, I left this job. It was never easy. So my point is, yes, society has social contracts, government has social contracts to provide a platform for you. But it is not going to happen anytime soon in totality. Your best bet is to find that inner motivation. And I go back to one of my best sayings again, that the best of people, the most successful people are not those who have the best of opportunities, but those who make the most out of the tiny opportunities that are given to them.
Thank you very much for that.
I wanted to jump in. So most of the panelists here have the drive and the passion, and they probably have emotional attachments. In my own part, it's quite different. I am not one of those who are very passionate about agriculture, I must be honest. But I am using my profession to do better within agriculture. Some of us want to be professionals. We want to be doctors. We want to be lawyers. We want to be bankers. We want to be accountants, psychologists, whatever. Those professions can help within agriculture. You don't have to be a professional or a banker in the bank, but you can be the finance manager or the auditor for the agricultural sector. And you can enhance the agricultural sector, because these agriculturalists, they need researchers. It can be very overwhelming. Sometimes I see my dad, he's so old, he's running around, he's used all his money, we have to take care of certain things ourselves. It can be overwhelming for him. But because we don't have enough people who are skilled to help, if we have researchers, we can have a place that we go to when we want to know about aqua farming, when we want to know about certain things. We just go there, and we know that it's readily available. When we want to have audits to be able to know that our finance is doing well, we know that we have people. When we want to brand, like our poultry, it is really, really hard to make eggs look very attractive, because you just put them on a tray, and people just know that eggs are eggs. But then if you have people who are brand marketers, they know how to make your business look better, and they can a lot of people and a lot of means to better enhance the agricultural sector, but we think that you don't have to be a farmer. You just have to go to the field and farm. You just have to have a parent who is within the agricultural sector. And I believe that it is not so. As a professional, you can be enabling factor to help enhance this agricultural sector, basically.
I mean, let's just go 30 seconds. Rugertu, you studied agriculture at the university, and you're now into farming, and you call yourself slave farmer. In 30 seconds, how does someone else who studied agriculture or who may not get into the sector and become another slave farmer? I mean, it could be 2 slave farmers, right?
Okay, one of the problems we're having is unhealthy competitions. I mean, have you seen two birds collided before? The sky is big. Agriculture is a very big sector. It can accommodate everyone. And from the beginning of this seminar to now, what I've learned is that the youth do not really have proper information on the value chain. We think that agriculture is all about farming. I think more information needs to go out on expanding the value chain. As she was saying, that's value chain expansion. I can be a producer, you can be a processor. In the processing, we have the branders. You can help me brand what I do. And we have the marketers. Suppose you don't want to go to the farm, you don't want to be a processor, you can be a marketer. I mean, as she was saying, if I know when I come here, I can get this, there. And for processing, I can go to S to Delight, who I think is going to buy my vegetables. And then we have marketers also, and we have people that are into transportation. We should have the transportation business. You bring in policies from the provinces to here. So all we need to do, we have to have more information and on expanding the value chain. And for the slave farmers network, I'm always there. Thank God I've met a lot of mentors here today, because we have started small. I've started training little by little, and all of you are now going to be mentors in a way we are going to connect and create impact to this generation.
Thank you very much. Hamid, just 30 seconds very quickly. She talks about the value chain. How do we disseminate information that actually attract young people to fill that gap in the value chain?
I think obviously this generation is blessed with tech platforms, social media in particular, so that makes it a lot easier for us to project some of this information. SL Accelerator, other like institutions also should have this kind of program, should have platform websites where they share just quick information about opportunities across different value chains. But it's not fair for me to speak about making use of the small we have without telling you what is the small almost every young person have nowadays, right? Nowadays, every young person has a smartphone. Many things you can learn on YouTube. Many sectors you can venture into by just going to YouTube and YouTube tutorials and video to get you started. I promise you, once you have a prototype of good product, it puts you in a better place to access funding and to have an investor listening to you. The other point is also, I went to Ghana and I saw something remarkable. I was training youth at the Ghana Climate Center in Ashenshi, and I saw that almost all of them had common PRSP phones, but every one of them had a laptop to do their pitches and everything. I come here, it's a contrast. Everyone has a fancy phone, they do their hair 3 times a month, fancy hair, expensive hair, but they still tell you they lack capital to start business. 1 million is enough to get you started by developing a prototype and demonstrating that you know how to do it. Even if they give you 10 million, you're going to fail miserably in the start because there's so much learning in doing. Why not then start small and learn and then build from that particular point on? So yes, on our part as implementers, we have to do proper research, disseminate these informational opportunities in very witty, quick and easy ways to grasp. On the part of young people, you really have to be opportunistic, make use of all the tools around you. Don't spend your time on Facebook just following things that will not benefit you. Yes, fun is good, we all do fun. You can learn on Facebook, you can learn on LinkedIn, you can do course on Udemy and other places. You can learn about agro-processing, almost every product on YouTube. Make use of opportunities, start small. If you come to that as an aggregator and say, what do you do? I have this product. That's heaven for me. I'm ready to start working with you from that point on. Even for mentorship, you approach me and say, I have this proposal. If I give you my number, don't bother messaging me. You message till the end of the world. I'm not even going to read it. Because if you don't believe in it enough to spend your 10,000, why should I believe in you? I'm not Jesus. Jesus. Spend your small money, develop a prototype. It gives you credibility to come and say, I do choose, these are my samples, but it still need improvement. It means you understand the value chain. It means you understand raw material sourcing. It means you understand production. It means you've tried customers and interest, and you know what they want, and you know what it takes to improve.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Bangura. And addressing you as Mr. Bangura, but also Oman. As Mr. Bangura, in 30 seconds, do you think we'll ever see an agriculture impact fund that will be driven by the Ministry of Youth?
Yes. Before answering your question, putting me in a room like this with Ahmed, Alex, and Adama reminds me of the days when we basically live on probability. Probability in the sense you don't even sure when you have your next daily meal and all. So I was a bit emotional. So on the question they asked, if as a government, if we're seeing if there's any hope to transform agriculture in the near future. Yes, I could say, provided we all agree, when you talk about government, it's not just me as a minister, the donor partners, the individuals that have said during the farming decided to do agriculture as a business and decided to change the way we do things and believe in ourselves. Most times we think starting things, everything just comes easily. But I believe if you really want to do something, you want to achieve something, the basic that you have should be used at the right time, for the right reason, and you'll definitely be there. So as a ministry, I'll tell you, one, we need to be honest. Like I was here today telling you, the model that I inherited from the past government, it doesn't work. I started another model, I realized we need to modify it. I'll tell you, by the time I'll serve as His Please His Excellency the President, I believe young people will transform from that aspect of celebrating mediocrity over excellence, drive about the priority you get from me. And Mr. Minister, what do you have for me? I'll tell you, one thing I always tell people, I'm not a traditional politician. You only have 3 to 5% in your leading that are politicians. It's all about livelihood. The amount of life you touch will give you the necessary vote. But we are still not there. But I'll tell you, when you go 5, 8 years ago, we are not where we are 8, 5 years ago. But we are still not there. At the end, where we want to take the ministry. In the sense I'm saying, we should all work as a team, as a nation. Think seriously first in everything that we're doing. Think about you representing not only you as an individual, but your family name. That if Oman take money today, the entire generation will say, Adam and Papa na be thief man. If Oman a good farmer, as she inherited from her mom, Adam, you see the trace. So we are saying, let's be the generation that we want to see. And it starts now. If our generation fail, because it's only now that we have a current youth budge, you have more young people now than ever before. By the time you have a youth on, if we don't make very good use of the current youth budge, it will be a challenge in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And before, I wanted to say something. I also wanted to advise us all. We all here and we want to be entrepreneurs. We have to be able to help each other to be better. If we go to places where it was very surprising for me to know that we're eating third-class rice. Now, if we notice that we have farmers here, we all should probably network and buy each other's products and find ways to enhance each other's business. Because if we're all here in this room, imagine everyone buying from the other person and helping to enhance, give proper reviews to help the business to grow. I think we would do better, be the first set of people who enhances agriculture, and then the next people would able to learn from what we did.
So, thank you, Sidi.
Just to give you a quick update before a question, after question and answer, we'll have a vote of thanks, vote of appreciation, lunch, and networking. We will take only 4 questions. Please let it be short, go to the point straight, and because we need to give chances to other people. The gentleman on the extreme right hand side. Everyone, we need a mic. The gentleman, please come in front, introduce yourself, your business or organization.
Hello. Good day. I'm Sonny Malalahai, founder of SendMe. SendMe is a logistics company. You can also check our website, www.sendme.com. We also do delivery. So if you have any business you want to deliver your products, just contact SendMe. Thank you very much. Quick marketing.
Very smart. Dr. Jalo, you have a question?
Okay, so this was okay. So I'll try not to be short, but be fast. One, if you look at the largest exporter of mango, it comes from Thailand and India, and it's mostly private businesses. Now, the previous speaker said we, Sierra Leone, import $250 million worth of rice and products. I think when he meant we, he means private businesses. These businesses actually import those products. So now we cannot expect those businesses to also invest in growing the products because it's not viable for them. Now, another example I have to point also is that we talked about Sarah Juice. Now, in a news article, Sarah Juice stated that it had $800,000 in investment. So that's how we started their business. Now, if you start a business with $800,000, your chances of success are extremely high. And very few people here have access to $800,000. Now, in the past 20 to 30 years, has there ever been a small Australian business or agricultural business that has risen to the level of Sarah Juice? I don't think so. Most of the small businesses that are here are small businesses because they don't have investment. So when we talk about success, I don't know if our level of success is just having a small business, but the problems Sierra Leone face are problems of large businesses that large businesses can solve. So we now talk about investment. A small pitch or a small idea of the market we have a market of about 8 million people. Let's assume each household has 10 people. So that's 800,000 families. 800,000 families, you spend $50, 500,000 on the bag of rice. So $550 times 8 million people, that's about $40 million. So $40 million times 12, that's $480 million in market for rice alone. So which means the rice market is $480 million. Where will you get a small business here that will have enough money to build that kind of market? So it's true that you can have passion, you can have this, you can have that, it's the drive. No, it's not about the drive. It's about raising capital. Like what Sidi said, like how can the youth get the capital? So it's more about thinking of ways of raising large amounts of capital. Like having Series A funding of $1 million, going to then $10 million, then going to $20, $100 million. These are large companies that can actually solve these problems. So I think in the grants that are coming, instead of having grants that are $10 million for 500 people, why not change the strategy to having like another form of investment that is $10 million for one specific company and allowing that company to grow to a level where it can actually solve the problem? Because we've been giving $10 million to hundreds of people and we still have the problems for 50 years. So why not change the strategy? Instead of diversifying $10 million to 100 companies, give that $10 million to one specific company, that company grows to a $10 million company, then grows to a $100 million company and solve the problem of rice. Then we can have food security in the country. Thank you very much. So how do you solve the problem of large-scale investment? Thank you.
So we have two people that want to respond to it, Mr. Sise and Amid Mara. Mr. Sise, can you please respond?
I wanted to say firstly that I love your passion. You want a solution, but sometimes solutions, they're a bit more complicated. For example, for banks to give a certain amount of loan, they have single obligor limits that are tied to their deposits. So oftentimes, even in things such as road construction, where you say, why is a Sierra Leone company not there? It's because the Sierra Leone company can't get that big guarantee because no banks here can do it, but they can get it somewhere else. So there's some challenges there that go, but the point I want to make is, yes, you're right in some ways in giving it to large organizations, but then what do you do in that short timing period? Because when you get to large organization, it takes a while to get to the bottom. So you have to look at that dual approach to say, how do I help the smallholder farmers? How do I open up businesses that don't take a lot of capital? So the one that's doing the production and the processing, when you mentioned earlier that the exporter will export it out, so it's easy for them to go out. So you have to know the different segments that you fall in, how they operate, how they are financed, and then you come up with the full solution, but you're on a good footing and you're on a good start.
Thank you. So, Sisi Ahmed, you want to?
So, I think I like to add that I don't just like your passion. I also like how you think. You're very sharp and evidence-based. I think the only thing that is missing is that evidence is not informed by experience. So many of these approaches, basically, people just need to wake up one morning and settle for them. It's because they've tried almost everything you said. And I go one by one. First, it is not mutually exclusive. That is, the same businesses who import cannot necessarily be the ones who can grow. That's your space. You can disrupt. Somebody else, some other business can invest in growing and disrupt that market. I usually say this thing, right? People say, oh, let's incentivize agriculture. It will fail. You don't incentivize people to do things. You leverage on existing incentives. Those people who import, their incentive is to make money, and they make it by importing. That's their incentive. They will never ever go to growing. It has not worked for them. They don't know it yet. Somebody else who has that incentive to change the narrative should be the one investing in that. So that's my first response. So it's not mutually exclusive, it can be either or. The second one is huge investment does not guarantee success. Absolutely not. And I'll tell you for a fact that Sarah Juice, before they got that investment, they failed many times. I met Hamza for the first time in 2014, and when we started the solar project, his pineapple plantation and juice production failed many times. He got many small grants before he got to a point where he got a big grant and succeeded. The reason why you fail instantly, they give it a big money instantly, is because all the learning, all the pitfalls he went through and learned from them over many years, you don't have that experience. You will fail and fail woefully and waste a lot of money. Right? That's the second point. The third point is that you don't need to have capital to start, and I'll tell you why. I think what young people need to master is how to attract capital. Right? No serious investor will bank on you if you say, I have this idea, it's $1 million idea. They want to see evidence. They want to see a prototype. They want to see what they call traction. And to get traction, you need to start small. Now, my final point to you, giving money to that one company has a lot of risk. And it has a question of who is the company. If today we wake up and say, we want one company with the capacity to invest in rice, no company in Sierra Leone will qualify. It will go to a foreign company. That in itself has a lot of disadvantages. Capital flights, like all the money will go back to another country, you will not benefit as Sierra Leoneans. Now my final point. No country, and we can give you an example, no country has succeeded by adopting that model, giving money to 1, 2, 3 big company. Instead, they created the platform and support functions for many companies to thrive. If we cannot achieve what I call plug and play, we're not there yet. Let me tell you what I mean by plug and play. Plug and play means you wake up one morning, you have a good idea, you can walk up to at least 1, 2 banks who are willing to give you finance. That means we have solved the customer access to finance, which is bundled. Product development problem, matching problem, risk problem. Even if you give one person 10 million, hundreds of you will wake up tomorrow, you want money. If you cannot plug and play, we haven't succeeded. If you can't wake up tomorrow and you see that to transport your goods from Kailan to Freetown, there is transport logistics, but only one company like African Minerals can do it because they can build a train, we haven't succeeded. So my point is, I get where you're coming from, but it is not about one person or even one company. It's about creating an environment where many companies, many businesses can wake up. And at least they don't have to recreate everything for themselves. They don't have to build their own trail. They don't have to build their own cutter to the pen. Because not everyone can afford that. So the reason why we go about this painful route, maybe the solution will be easier. This is a painful route, is because we instead want to create a lasting solution where many people can plug and play, not just a solution for one person. You want to follow up, please?
Next question, please.
We say the time again.
You want to say something?
Yes.
Okay.
Just.
Okay, so so the first point you stated, I wasn't trying to say the ones who are exporting should also import. The ones who are importing should also export. I was just trying to say there was a blame that was put on them. Why aren't they doing it? So I'm not saying they should do both jobs because it's clearly not feasible. That's one. Two, I'm not also saying that the whole money, like the whole, let's say it's $100 million you're trying to invest in a company, should be completely given to that company. There are lots of companies going through a series of investments. A simple example of a startup is, for example, let's say Flutterwave. Flutterwave started with Series A, Series B, Series D, Series F, and then now going for an IPO. So there's that step of systematic growth depending on your output. So you don't just give a company $100 million just because you want for them to solve the problem of price. You start with 500,000. They do well. Okay, we actually produce this. Then now we go down to $1 million. Then I'll go to $10 million.
Why that's company? Why that's one company? Why?
Because that's why I said I gave the example. The reason is that for the past 50 years, which other company has risen from scratch? Which other company has actually risen to the level of Sarah Juice without that amount of investment? And now, if you actually talked about mistakes, now if you actually have money, there's also room for mistakes. Now, whether you have money or not, you still make mistakes.
Nobody wants to take the risks.
So my point is basically,
So then
if we can't achieve that with one,
yeah, I'm not saying also, I'm
We
also
are
not
running
saying.
out of time.
This is the problem. This is the problem. They can't
The
understand.
lady at the back, yes, with the
Thank
white
you,
shirt.
man.
Yeah.
Please make your question short. Go straight to the point.
All right, hello, my name is Dr. Tomoshiro Wicks.
Can you please stand up and come forward? Okay. Yes, I think. Yeah, you're okay then.
All right, so my name is Dr. Tomoshiro Wicks, a medical doctor, founder of